Imagine, well, your empire is collapsing. You are captured by your enemies as a kid. But instead of being destroyed, you actually learn their tactics, use them to conquer your own crumbling state, and eventually become emperor.
Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to this deep dive where we are looking at the life of the 17th century Ethiopian Emperor Susenyos I. We want to explore how a desperate ruler's radical, highly controversial policies accidentally birthed a monumental golden age for you to study today.
Yeah, it really sounds like fiction. I mean, almost like a movie plot. But that was the stark reality for the Solomonic dynasty in the late 1500s. The state was facing just this absolute existential crisis.
Right, because they were totally exhausted, right?
Exactly. They were exhausted by devastating external wars, and they were overwhelmed by these massive migrations of the Oromo people moving right into the highland core. The empire was quite literally fracturing. So, he has a massive fracturing demographic crisis on his hands. How does a single ruler even begin to absorb that many migrating warriors without completely losing his throne? I mean, this ties back to his childhood, right?
It does, yeah. He leveraged his own captivity. When he was captured as a youth, he wasn't just locked away in a cell somewhere. He was actually integrated into the Oromo Gada system.
Oh, wow.
Right, and this wasn't just a military structure. It was a really complex, generation-based democratic system.
Okay.
So by being adopted into it, he ceased being a prisoner and... well, he became a brother. He learned their language and, crucially, their invincible cavalry tactics.
Wait, so instead of trying to build a dam to stop a flood of enemies, is this like a failing legacy tech company completely absorbing a rival startup's engineering team to survive?
That is a perfect analogy, actually. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, that is exactly what happened. Because when he eventually took the throne, instead of fighting a doomed war of attrition, he systematically co-opted allied Oromo fighters into his own imperial army.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, he settled these fierce warriors right in the imperial core. He fundamentally re-engineered the state's demographics, which fractured his enemies and ensured the physical survival of his throne.
But, securing the core with Oromo cavalry only goes so far, because cavalry is useless against, say, an Ottoman naval blockade on the Red Sea. To break that, he needed completely different technology.
Right, exactly. He needed advanced European firearms. And to get a military alliance with the Iberian Union, so Spain and Portugal, he made an unprecedented move. He converted to Roman Catholicism.
Which is huge.
Oh, massive. Initially, the Jesuit missionary Pedro Paez was pretty respectful, engaging with Ethiopian Orthodoxy on its own terms. But when Paez died, his successor, Afonso Mendes, well, he instituted a violent campaign of cultural erasure.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, and I have to push back a bit. Did Susenyos genuinely believe this Catholic theology? Or was he just cynically trading a millennium of indigenous culture for matchlock guns?
It is so easy to view it as pure realpolitik. But the primary sources suggest he genuinely believed he was restoring an ancient, uncorrupted faith. The real tragedy is how Mendes enforced it.
Right, because Mendes was brutal about it.
Very. Mendes pushed this rigid theology of the visible that basically meant physically replacing every single visible Ethiopian tradition with alien European rituals. He banned circumcision, he outlawed the Saturday Sabbath, and he forced these humiliating public rebaptisms. To the public, this wasn't theology, it was total colonial erasure.
And you just cannot erase an ancient culture without a fight.
You certainly cannot. The societal backlash was fierce. Saint Walada Petros, who was an aristocrat, she actually abandoned her life of privilege to lead a massive popular uprising.
Wow.
Yeah, the tensions erupted into full-blown civil war. And at the 1632 Battle of Denkaz, Susenyos' imperial forces slaughtered 25,000 of his own rebelling subjects.
Oh my God. So what does this all mean? I mean, surveying a battlefield of his own dead people must have just broken him. Did he just leave the empire in blood-soaked ruins?
It completely broke him, yes. He realized his religious homogenization was destroying the exact state he was trying to save. So he issued the Edict of Toleration, restored the Orthodox faith, and then immediately abdicated.
We just walked away.
He did. But what's fascinating here is what survived the wreckage. Because the Portuguese Empire had established vast maritime trade routes stretching to India, this whole Catholic alliance inadvertently opened a pipeline. It brought skilled Indian stonemasons from Gujarat all the way to the Ethiopian highlands.
Oh, wait, really? So the alien religion he fought so hard to implement vanished, but the physical architecture it funded stayed forever?
Precisely. Before Susenyos, emperors ruled from these roving tent cities that just depleted local resources. But these new foreign craftsmen, they introduced advanced stone and lime mortar construction. They built monumental palaces and bridges.
That is incredible.
It is. Susenyos literally laid the physical, infrastructural foundations of the legendary Gondarine architectural renaissance. And that completely defined Ethiopia for the next century.
It's wild to think that Mendes's attempt at total cultural erasure backfired so violently, right? Yet the forced globalization still left a permanent, unintended fingerprint on the empire. It shows you how top-down cultural erasure always fails, but the global connections remain.
And it left a profound historical pivot point, too. Following this huge trauma, Susenyos' son, Emperor Susenyos I, instituted a strict 150-year isolationist policy. He actually relied on surrounding Muslim neighbors to intercept and kill any approaching Europeans, just to protect the state from further religious imperialism.
Which just leaves you with this incredible thought to explore on your own. If the Jesuits hadn't pushed so hard, and that 150-year quarantine never happened, how completely different might African history look today?